Hello and welcome everyone, this is Dmitry. This is another network programmability stream. Today we have part 25. Very excited as always. We don't have many news today, but I'll cover them in a moment. So the focus of today's stream will be RESTCONF mostly, and a little bit of YDK if we will have time. We'll see. I do not know yet. I think we actually had a very brief overview of RESTCONF some time ago, but on the NETCONF stream, but I don't think we dedicate any stream to RESTCONF specifically. So yeah, let's actually get started. Oh, before doing that, last time we were writing code for Nornier, and I submitted pull request for a new feature. It's still not merged, but I hope that sometime next week it will get merged, so everyone could benefit from the new functionalities that we wrote on the stream. Okay, some news for this week. So I had to cancel my trip to Raleigh to RTP due to hurricane. So this is actually the reason why we are having the stream this week, since last time I announced that there will be no stream on this weekend. So because of hurricane I had to cancel my travel, so I stayed at home. So here we are on the stream. I do hope that everyone in North Carolina stays safe, and that your home and your families are not affected by it. Another one is, and this is what I covered last time a little bit. So there was a Twitter thread about Network Devices API, RESTCONF, NETCONF, Yang, Ansible. So if you are interested and you have half an hour, you can take popcorn with you and go to this thread. I think there are almost 200 replies in that thread, in that tree. So if you go to how to find this thread, if you go to my Twitter page and just scroll a little bit, I think, let me see, this one. So the one where I agree with some article about Ansible, and it just went completely nuts, like around 150 or 200 replies on this thread. So if you have some time, I think this is an interesting read. There are a lot of different perspectives about network configuration state, about how some people do not like RESTCONF, and so on and so forth. So actually this thread is the reason why we are having RESTCONF stream today. So I was, some people there, they were complaining about RESTCONF, but they never really tried it. So I decided to, this is a topic that I actually haven't covered, so why don't we have a stream about it? So yeah, if you have some time and you're interested in network programmability, this is a great thread to see opinions from different perspectives. And yeah, there is a lot of disagreement there as well, but that's fine as long as it's friendly. One network guy, hello, thank you for coming to the stream. I really appreciate it. So another one is, I had this idea, and it kind of started after that thread too, which is, well, why don't we have libraries that can interact with specific operating system using these new APIs like NETCONF and RESTCONF, without relying on CLI in Python, right? So that you don't have to write Yang. You don't even need to know Yang model. You don't need to know how to construct NetConf RPC. You don't need to know how to construct the RESTCONF payload. So you can just go ahead and use this to interact with your specific operating system. And well, since I'm doing mostly IOS-XE, so this was an obvious choice for me. So the idea, and I will tell you a little bit more about this idea because there is also a call for action here. So yeah, so the main idea is that you don't rely on CLI at all. So there is no CLI involvement in this library. So by doing that, well, first of all, you eliminate any kind of like parsing that can fail from version to version. So this part is just, this problem doesn't exist there. Another thing is that you can actually guarantee network configuration state for the configured features. So let's say you're trying to configure interface, let's say not interfaces, like users. This is examples that I give all the time. You have a users Alice and Bob, and you would like to end up with users Bob and Charlie. So unlike just typical CLI push, where you can create a configuration from like Jinja template, whatever. In this case, this will be actually done with the network configuration state in mind. So if you say I would like to have these two users, it should supposed to go ahead and delete everything else in consistent way, which we can guarantee with something like NETCONF or NETCONF configuration, network operation replace, for example. So yeah. I think it's very similar to two other projects. One of them is called YDK, which we may investigate today, but I do not know. Depends on if I will be able to install it without any issues and if we will have time. So just very briefly, what is the idea behind YDK? YDK is a library which does automatic conversion of Yang model to Python objects, and you can use that to interact with devices via NETCONF, for example. There are a couple of problems there. I think I will talk about problems with YDK later. And another project that is somehow similar will be Napalm. Napalm is a Python library, Python project, which allows you to interact with a number of operating system as number of network operating systems without in platform agnostic way. So you don't really do any kind of vendor specific CLI, you do like general get interfaces or something. So it supports by default, I think 3 or 4 different vendors. I don't remember, but yeah. So the also idea is kind of similar to that, but not 100%, since we'll be relying 100% on NETCONF and RESTCONF, so there will be no CLI. This will be much less error prone. And yeah, there will be just no parsing. So this is kind of in between YDK and Napalm. We'll see. So why I bring this up and what is a call to action? So I already created this repo called Cisco-IOS-XE on my GitHub account, and I briefly described what I'm trying to do here and what kind of like API I have in mind for the end user. So I would like you guys to go through this README. Very, it's very short. There is no code right now, and maybe we'll actually write code for this library live, at least for some of it. We'll see. So what I want from people watching this stream or watching this recording, I'd like you to go here and read this README and let me know if it even makes sense. Maybe what I'm trying to do here makes 0 sense. Maybe YDK covers all your needs and you don't need this. If you think it's a good idea, then I also would like you to think of what would be the best way how you can use it. Okay, what would be, like, give me an actual examples, like okay, like I would like to have this line of code doing that, okay, so, or this doing that, so something like this, so that I can understand and define what is the best API design we could come up with, and go ahead and implement this. Until I have a clear picture in my mind how I want this to be, I'm not going to write any code, because I do believe that a public API user experience is very important piece. Like if user-facing API is bad, then I don't see a lot of sense in using library like this, especially if there are some alternatives. So please go through this. Let me know what kind of user-facing API you would like to have for different operations. Also, let me know, guys, what kind of features I should implement first. Okay, so since I will not rely on any automatic code generation for this. I do believe that automatic code generation has good intention, but provides very bad user experience. So every single object is going to be hand-coded somehow, right? So, and since, you know, this is my like personal project, I should obviously prioritize different things. So also open different issues here on the issues page with the things that you think would be great to have at the very beginning, right? I mean, obviously there are like some usual stuff, like, I don't know, software version or something like this, what is called in different systems like facts or something like this. But other than that, there are so many different things. I feel like the best use of time would be like to have some basic interface interaction and maybe routing table interaction, but I don't know, it's just my own perception. So yeah, any ideas, either ping me somewhere on like network to code Slack, or just go ahead and open an issue, and I'm okay if there are like 200 open issues here. Yeah, I would like to hear your thoughts. I would like to hear the feedback of potential users, and maybe we can actually build something together, guys, something that everyone can benefit from. Though there is one thing that I will not compromise, is the use of CLI. So the only piece that I may add here to be CLI based is actually go ahead and enable NETCONF or RESTCONF on the device. This is the only kind of like compromise I can have on CLI. So other than that, everything should be done via NETCONF or RESTCONF, because I would like this to be a step into the future, not relying on old CLI techniques, but rely on modern APIs. And yes, this means that like among all user base of operating system, only like small portion of people will be able to use it because they have appropriate software version. But what this also means is that we are preparing for the future, where every single device you have will be able to support this. So yeah, those are my thoughts. There are a couple of comments in the chat that I haven't paid any attention to it. I fail 92 hello, Cameron hello as well. So there is a comment for IOS-XE. I think a good goal to achieve would be idempotent configuration like a Steven Carter block about Ansible. If you want to deliver in TP server 1111, they want to change to 2222. The first TP server remains. Seems like the type of variable length configuration is a use case for I don't know how to pronounce this, *conf, well, which obviously means NETCONF and RESTCONF. So yes, absolutely. So this is the main reason why I say that I will not compromise on CLI. So with CLI, it's actually really hard to guarantee that kind of, to have a guarantee of the network configuration state, the one that is mentioned in the chat. But with using both NETCONF and RESTCONF, you can actually guarantee the end state. So yes, this is my focus. This is the main thought behind the library, that it must be able to do that. So if you would like to end up with only one username and you already had 4, it will go ahead and replace all the existing users with only one. There will be no configuration merge. But for that, there should be a very good API, which I do not have in mind yet. What's the best way to get started using RESTCONF Python, as I'm really new to it, so want to learn more? So, okay. So, well, this stream will be about RESTCONF, and I will show you how to get started with RESTCONF on this stream. How to get started with Python, though, this is not something that I can just answer. I mean, it's not like you can get started with Python in 1 week. At least this is my own perspective. I don't think people can write programs after 1 week of some classes or bootcamp or whatever. I do think it's very long-term process, starting with, maybe after like 1 month you can do copy-paste of some basic programs, and then maybe after like half a year or a year you actually feel a little bit more comfortable to actually do something you have in mind. There are obviously a lot of resources to learn Python, but yeah, I mean, it's not something I can answer like within even 5 minutes. There is a blog post though that I have been writing for 2 months now, how to get started with Python. So I hope at some point I will finish that and post it, but yeah, this is just a broad topic. There is no simple answer to it. Okay. I see there are no more comments. And the last piece is Cisco-IOS-XE-1 library. So if you have been watching previous streams, you know that I shared this with you, that I am in the process of writing Cisco-IOS-XE-1 Python library, which also allows you to interact with Viptela, with Cisco-IOS-XE-1 powered by Viptela, without actually looking on the like REST API docs or something. So everything is a Python object, and you can interact very easily with that. So my current progress is that I have been able to finish around 75% of configuration objects in the vManage. So stuff like feature templates, device templates, different lists like ISPaths, access lists, QoS maps, all of the stuff I have already implemented for that. I also do not have a date when I will be able to release this to public. I do hope that within a couple of weeks, maybe a month, I will release a beta version of it, because besides just doing the writing code, I also need to write good docs. Even if your library is great, but you don't have proper docs, it's pointless. So that will be quite a challenge to write proper docs for the library. But since I have mentioned this, I actually can show you the part of it. I can't show everything to you yet, but yeah. So this is my project opened in the PyCharm, and this is all of the objects here you can see in this tree have been already implemented. So stuff like access list, ASPath list, class maps, color lists, communities, prefix lists, mirror list, policy list. So everything was already implemented here. QoS policy, right, topology, blah blah blah, localized and centralized policy, templates, so all of that stuff. So you see it's very big. So on the right you see my like sandbox test Python script where you can see that I can you know, this is an object that I define above, but I will not show it to you since there are some credentials there that I don't want to show. So I can just say vmanage config and then I specify an object and I say like get all, or I can say get a specific object. You can also update and delete. So for this test I just get every object. So once you run this script, you will be able to see something like this, and this is just I ran just before the stream. So so when I run this, I get like a list of feature templates, and you see all of those are actually Python objects. So name, ID, this is like a brief view, but everything you can configure actually is accessible in this object. So device template, app list, and so on and so forth. Here, for example, I'm getting one of the QoS maps, one specific one, I think it was what, QoS map 2. I'm getting it and I'm printing everything that is available as like a dictionary or list, so what is called serialized. So everything there is converted to Python objects. The same is like topology and blah blah blah. So you can very easily interact with vmanage using this. So yeah, this is my current progress on this front. I can, you know what, I will show to you guys how one of the definitions here looks like for one of the objects, because I think it's pretty cool. So it's not like actually a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but not terrible. So for example, let's say what, maybe hub and spoke topology. Yeah, let's do hub and spoke. So when I do hub and spoke, this is my file of definitions that I have to create. In the very bottom, there are two objects called CRUD. This is an object which allows you to do any operation like get, update, get all, delete, blah blah blah. And this is an actual object where I have to define every single field available. So I have this hub and spoke topology object. It's actually I have to define the type hub and spoke, definition, subdefinitions. So basically how it looks like, I have to create a variable, I have to specify a type, and then I have to specify the name of the key in an actual REST API. And then if there are nested objects, I have to go ahead and define those as well. So here, for example, I have a list of other objects, and this other object has this kind of fields like advertise TLOC, equal preference, blah blah blah, and they are equivalent to these REST API key names. So it's not like a lot of work, but I do have to spend a lot of time in Chrome developer tools and REST API docs and check every single object that it's properly defined, so it's properly deserialized and serialized. So this is an approach I took, and yeah, we'll see. So I hope in a couple of weeks I will release like a beta version of this package. And I see there is one question in the chat from one network guy. Is Viptela running as a virtual service on IOS-XE? No, it's not. So in general, with Cisco SD-WAN powered by Viptela, there are two ways you can run this on an actual devices. So you can have Viptela device, which is called VEdge, not VEdge, just called Edge. No, it's called VEdge. Yes, it's called VEdge. and you know it has been always supported by vManage, or you can put special image on a Cisco device on like ISR 4K or ISR 1K or ASR 1K, which will be also managed by vManage. So this is just a special image. In this case though, I don't know, for this specific library, I actually don't need a single device, because everything is done in the vManage GUI. So every single configuration of the devices using this kind of templates, policies, and so on and so forth is done in the GUI. So I actually don't need a single device to be able to build this API. I don't know if Dmitry answered this, but CH runs on its own software, but not virtual service container. There is IOS-XE is the run build. Yeah, I think this is exactly what I was describing right now. Okay, cool. So yeah, this is my progress. 75% of all configuration objects. Let's get it to like 95 and then release a beta version or something. So stay tuned for that if you ever need to interact with vManage and you would like to build some custom automation on top of vManage. So yeah, but as you can see, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of Python files here. So yeah, it's slow process. Okay, good. So this is it on the news part for today. So let's start with the topic for today, which is RESTCONF and YDK. So I have here my project called Network Programmability Stream, and I guess I will need to make the font. No, it's actually fine. The font is already fine. So let's go ahead and start by creating a new folder here in the project called RESTCONF. Okay. And before we start, there is one additional piece that I have to do, which is I have to open my Postman. Just give me 1 second, folks. I will. So for those of you who don't know, the Postman is. So Postman is basically a GUI to test REST API, and we will be using it extensively to test RESTCONF first. After we feel confident with RESTCONF, we will then go ahead and try to use RESTCONF in Python code. So you know, this will be much easier. I actually recommend Postman to everyone who needs to check REST APIs. This is a great way to do that. Okay. So let me see. I see there are a couple of things here, and I need to make sure that it just works. And I see now that actually doesn't. So let me see. Okay, it seems to be working fine. Okay, let me bring up my Postman here. Okay, so yeah, we'll start in a second here. So where to start and what is RESTCONF and why you should care about it. So probably the discussion should start with Yang. So Yang is a data model language, very powerful, but also from my perspective it's quite complex. So it's basically a language how to describe the data, or more importantly data model. It's kind of similar to JSON, but it's different. There is a specific language called Yang basically. why bother? So the idea is that you can convert, well, any kind of data to this model. Well, no, it's actually hard to describe it. It's kind of abstract. So basically you define how your data is structured. So think about this. For example, you have interfaces, and you have a number of interfaces which feels like a collection of objects, where you could select one interface by name. Okay, so you select your interface, your specific interface, by interface name, not by IP address on it, really. So then every interface has a number of different characteristics like type, description, and so on and so forth. Okay, so it's kind of like this tree that goes and spans. Now maybe you have one feature, let's say IP address, but for IP address you may specify a static IP address, but you may also specify like keyword secondary on CLI. Okay, so there is some kind of additional attribute of the specific object, right? So you may just have an IP address specified, or you may say IP address and secondary. So it feels like it spans even further from this object. So basically with Yank and with Yankee language, you describe how your data is structured. The main use case for it is obviously network configuration and operational data of network devices, but actually you can use Yank for a lot of other different use cases. Probably the closest alternative to Yank would be JSON schema, or JSON schema or XML schema. So both of those describe how your data should be structured if you supply JSON, and you can validate data according to it. So what I mean by that, if you're and let me bring up my, just hold on folks, I have to open my Visual Studio Code here, try to describe. Okay, and I can create a new file here. So yeah, okay. So let's say your Yank model says that you must have interfaces, and then you need to have, I will not be able to describe this. So you may have interfaces, and then you need to have a key called, let's say, name, which will be like gigabit 1, and then you may have description, something, and then you have an IP address, which may be something like 1234, but then it also spans and say secondary true or something, something like this. Okay, so it's kind of like this tree structure that can span a lot, very deep. And then you supply a data, so this is kind of like a schema which says, okay, you must have this key. After you have this key, you need to have this key and this key and this key, and maybe this key is an optional. So this is what Yank defines, or actually very similar to JSON schema or XML schema. They kind of define the same thing. Now you supply a data like this, for example, or you supply a data like this. Okay, and using this schema you can actually say, oh no, this is incorrect, this is not what I expect. If you need to have secondary attribute set, you must specify it as like nested object. You can't specify it here. So this is one thing. Another thing, you can actually validate that, let's say your interface for some reason have sequence number and you provided some string. as a data. Using the schema, you can say, well, no, this attribute must be an integer or float or something. It can be a string. So it can say, okay, this is invalid too. So this is what you get with schema. Schema is super important to check data validity, to validate if your data is correct, and you can actually do it even on client side in some cases before even sending the data across the wire. So Yank is very powerful. It allows you to describe tree of any type of complexity. My problem with Yank is that I think current tooling for Yank sucks. So it could be much better than it is right now. So yes, there are all Yank models out there, but the tools to be able to understand the Yank model, I think they still have big room for improvement, and I don't see ultimate tools out there. Okay, so basically, again, bottom line here is that Yank defines a model of your data, and then using this model, by providing the data in some kind of format like JSON, XML, whatever, you can actually go ahead and validate this data against the model and say, okay, this data that you provided confirms this model or no. Okay, you should go ahead and fix it. What kind of things you may have? So think about this. If you have a tree where you have interfaces, okay, and you provide the data and you check that this data is valid, you can actually, if you would like to, you can go ahead and replace everything that exists there in this tree with the new information that you have. Okay, for example, you have tree called NTP, right? Let's take this example. And then this tree must have server, and then here there should be an IP address, for example. Okay, maybe like this. And here you must specify IP address, and maybe you need to specify key for NTP, which will be specified like this. Okay, some secret key. Okay, so what you can do is that if you put a new data that confirms this model and your device supports this model, right, you can go ahead and say, okay, this is my new data that I would like to have, and I would like just to go ahead and replace everything in this tree. So let's say previously you had, let me think, previously you may have something like this. So you have server 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7, 8. Or let's actually take this example from that blog post. This is what you had, okay? And you would like to end up with NTP server 3333, the only thing, okay? So you construct a new tree basically, where you say this, and then using protocols like NETCONF or RESTCONF, you can say, oh, and go ahead and replace this NTP tree, okay? So it will go ahead and replace whatever was there in this tree with your new data. This is how you can guarantee what is called network configuration state, because if by default you go ahead and push config NTP server 3333, you will end up with 3 NTP servers, not 1. Okay. So this is what you can get by using the data model. Okay, so what is the role of NETCONF, RESTCONF here? So both NETCONF and RESTCONF are what are called transport protocol. So Yank is just a model language, but somehow you need to get this data in some very specific format that conforms this data model over the wire from your management station to the network device, for example. So this is where you have these two protocols called NETCONF and RESTCONF. So what are the main differences between those two? So you have NETCONF, and let me create like a new file. You have NETCONF, and and we'll also have RESTCONF. Okay, so NETCONF is connection-oriented protocol. So whenever you want to do something via NETCONF, first you have to establish a connection, you have to send this hello packet, you'll be replied with list of capabilities, and then over the session you can pass specific XML payload and interact with device. You don't have to open a new connection every time you want to do something on the device. Okay, so it's connection oriented. It uses what is called well, not what is called, it uses XML, though as far as I know there was a draft to use JSON, but I don't know if anyone implemented that in their network devices. So it uses XML, RPC, remote procedure calls. So you have to put your XML, you have to create your XML in very specific format to be able to achieve what you want. So it supports transactions. So couple of pieces here. When I say transactions, you have what is called logs. So you can go ahead and say, okay, the only way you can do changes right now is if you have a log. So you acquire a log, and then no one else can do any kind of configuration change at the same time. What this allows you to do is it allows you to be sure that the data was not changed while you were doing a number of operations. Okay, so this is actually most of the time a good idea if you would like to make sure that no one else modifies the config at the same time. So you have logs, so you acquire a log, you do something, and then you release the log. Another thing that you can have is what is called network-wide transaction. And I will put transaction in quotes. So network-wide transaction is what you can do is that you generated XML for a number of network devices that conforms NETCONF and YANG, and you push this config to your devices. Then device, well, and this is optional feature, but what device can do, it can say, okay, the config that you pushed can be actually applied. Okay, and you apply it in what is called candidate data store. So push config to n devices. Devices verify if it can be applied. Pushed to the candidate data store on the device. Device replies with OK. Once you receive OK from every single device, you can say commit. And then this config is basically committed from this candidate data store to the running data store. Okay, so by doing this, if you think this through, basically you achieve kind of like network-wide transaction. You still have a possibility to fail midway when you do this commit to every single device, but in general you can actually apply one change across your infrastructure consistently. Okay, so I think it's pretty cool. So with NETCONF you also have something like streaming telemetry. So using NETCONF as a protocol, you can actually say, oh, send me the statistics about interfaces or access list counters periodically, let's say every 1 second, or every time it changes. So because we are connection oriented, we open the connection and you can ask network device to push the data back. Okay, So those are main features of NetConf. What about RESTCONF? So RESTCONF is similar yet different. So here we also put uses yank, but not necessarily. So interesting fact is, for example, on Cisco-IOS, NetConf without yank was present since 12.4, so like a long time ago. But without yank, you were able to push only CLI-based config. So what about RESTCONF? So RESTCONF interacts specifically with yank, so exclusively with yank. It is connectionless, so almost like typical REST API. So basically, you don't open any connection, you just send an HTTP request with HTTP verb like get, put, delete, post. This device does something and replies to you. This is it. This is RESTCONF. Another interesting piece is what is called, well, I would say it's like URI schema. So what this means, and this is actually different compared to NetConf. So interaction with object is part of the payload. For example, in going back to NetConf, you can say replace all users and VRFs and merge interface config part in a single RPC call. When we are talking about RESTCONF, it's not the case. So RESTCONF relies exclusively on the URI schema. So every single object you have to put it in URI schema. For example, 1234, this is an IP address of your device, /data/interfaces, and then name is equal to gigabit Ethernet 1. So, and then you have your payload. What this really means is that you can only interact with one object at a time. You can't create one RESTCONF payload which will interact with a number of objects in the same payload. So you can't anymore in one single call say, oh, I would like to replace users, VRFs, and merge interface config. You have to do it separately. But what this also means is that if you have problem only, let's say, in the last piece, in the interface config, it's wrong for some reason. This means by default you will apply users and VRF configs, but not interfaces config because it contains an error. So this part will fail. So since it's not a single RPC, so it's not a single packet, you can't guarantee, you can't have it as atomic change. Okay. So this is what you get with RESTCONF. So my general view. Oh, and by the way, about this piece, about the URI schema, there were a lot of debate on Twitter, and some people saying, oh, this is like a bad design. I actually think it's a good design. What this allows you to do is that it's much more easier to construct the payload for this, since almost everything will be in your URI. Yes, you lose this ability to interact with number of objects in a single operation, but RESTCONF didn't mean to replace NetConf. RESTCONF appeared much later, I think like 2 years ago, and this was not their intention to, oh, let's just compete with NetConf. No, they were like complementing it. And the main argument on Twitter was, oh, like the proper design if you use HTTP to interact with network devices would be to have one single URI called whatever it is called. So you have, let's say, your device, and you say, let me put HTTPS, and I will put HTTPS here too. HTTPS, and here you say Yank, no, not Yank RPC. You say what? You say JSON RPC, for example. So you have one endpoint, and everything that you would like to do, you actually specify in your payload. So then you can achieve it. Yeah. So from my personal perspective, I like this more, even though it gives you less functionality. But as I told you, they didn't want to compete with NETCONF. So in general, this is kind of like very basic about what is RESTCONF. What this translates to? Well, actually, I just lost my thought. Like, I was starting a sentence and just lost my thought completely. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so just very basic of RESTCONF. So now we can go ahead and start interacting with this. Let's see how it goes. We will not cover YDK right now. We'll see. If we'll have time, we'll cover it, and I will explain what YDK does. If not, then don't. Okay. So even if you use RESTCONF, you still have to understand the Yank tree. Okay. So here I have a couple of devices. I have CSR2. I have CSR3. Let me see if it actually got reloaded. Actually, it didn't. Well, it did reload, but with incorrect software version. So I think we will just do CSR dev here. Server version, okay, 16.8.1. So this is a CSR that I will use for tests here, mostly. So to enable RESTCONF on the, by the way, RESTCONF appeared in IOS-XE in the next release after the RESTCONF got approved as a standard. So I think it's kind of cool. So actually RESTCONF was present in 16.5.1 development release, while RESTCONF was still a draft standard. It was already there but hidden. But then in 16.6.1 it was already there with changes that got into the standard. So basically, once it got approved as a standard, in the next release we saw RESTCONF. So I think it's pretty cool. So how to enable RESTCONF from XE? It's actually super straightforward. You have to enable two things. You have to enable HTTP server. Show run HTTP secure. So you have to say a HTTP secure server to enable HTTP server, and then you need to enable very complex command called RESTCONF in global configuration. So these two commands, and you have your RESTCONF ready. Again, support is since 16.6.1 on IOS-XE. So here I have 16.8.1a. Okay, so this device is ready to do RESTCONF. So how do you actually do it? How do you construct this URI? And you know what, before we do that, I will also open an RFC. So actually I read, I think, almost 80% of RFC, and it's actually a good read here. I learned a lot from this RFC. So RFC 8040, I think it's around like 150 pages or so. Yeah, it's actually not that big. But yeah, so, okay, let's go ahead and start doing stuff. First, there is an URI called, and here, by the way, I have a Postman collection with like operations that I showcased when I talked about RESTCONF. So the very first operation is you can do get on this well-known host meta. So here in the Postman I use a variable called IOS-XE device. This is just my IP address, which is 10.48.18.30. it points to my CSRDEF. And if you put here in the URI .wellknown / host meta, you have to provide your credentials as basic authentication in HTTP. So you provide your privilege 15 username and password. Here I have both of them. Those are Cisco. So you do this and you get this response. So if I click send again, you get this response. And the main piece here is basically this, href RESTCONF. So if you get this reply, it means that your RESTCONF is enabled and supported. And this RESTCONF says, okay, to use RESTCONF for every subsequent request, you can use this /RESTCONF URI. So there are two pieces in the RESTCONF. There is data and there are operations. Let me see if I will be able to find it here. Pretty sure I will be able. Yeah, so here, API resource, data, operations, and actually there is a Yank library version. If you like to see the different Yank models available. So usually use data or operations. So the first piece is /RESTCONF /operations. The same thing, you send the get there and you get a list of operations supported. So what do we get here in 16.8.1? So I do not know every single one of those, but you get something like, you get the reload operation, you get licensing operations. So you can actually go ahead and license your device with smart licensing or something directly using API. You can copy run start, for example. So actually not this one. You can actually do this one. Cisco-IOS save config will save running config to startup. You can enable guest shell, for example, clear MAC address, and so on and so forth. Smart license, register, deregister. So those are different operations. Those are what is called global operations, but there are also operations on specific objects. Like for the model like BGP, you can have an operation which will be on that specific model. I'm thinking if it makes any sense to use any kind of operation right now. You know what I think we can actually do? We can reload one of those. We can reload. There is this CSR3 which is running 16.10.1. Let me see its IP address. 26. You know what? We'll just go ahead and reload this guy. Okay, so I have to be very careful though. Let me also see if I have username Cisco. Yeah, I do have username Cisco here. So let's go ahead and try this. I will duplicate. Here I will say device 10 48 18 what 26. So RESTCONF operations, and operation will be reload. Okay, I think I can actually skip the prefix part. I don't recall. We'll try and we'll see. Reload, and you have to do post on it. So you do post and send this. RPC request successful, and reload requested on the VTY63 reload reason reload command. So you see our device just got reloaded. Perfect. So this was operation reload. think you can try to copying or something, but I actually don't remember how you can see all the options. Actually, I think I may know how. Yeah. Okay, let's see. So let's go to our Yank repository, which we will be referring to a lot today. So projects, forks? No. Projects, others, Yank. Vendors, Cisco-IOS-XE-1681. Okay. And I think we have to find the RPC one. So history, grab RPC. Nope. Operations. Oh, yeah, about that. It's not history, it's LSLA, grab RPC, and operations. Okay. So pyyank, and I have to do one additional thing. I have to say user local bin pyyank f3 . Okay, so we can do copy here. Lightsync we will not be doing right now. Cellular reload. Force release. We can explore the bare yank itself. So Cisco-IOS-XE RPC. This is what I think right now is kind of like Achilles feet of the whole project. Is like you really have to understand how to use these yank models, and there are some tools like Yank Explorer, Yank Suite. But I don't like any of those yet. So every so often I use just pyyank command line based tool. So we need RPC copy. Copy one file from another. So string can be a pattern, boot flash, running startup. Yeah, this actually works. So we have to provide import, service destination. Okay. I have to remember how I can use input for the operations. So let's try go ahead and actually refer to the RESTCONF RFC. So it should be part of the operation resource, encoding operation resource input parameters. This is what we need. Okay, so this is an example. You have module RPC reboot and you have inputs. Excuse me. Okay, so you do a post here and then you say input and you provide your parameters. So this if you use XML, and this is if you use JSON. Going down for system maintenance. Okay. Same example, request message shown here using JSON encoding. RESTCONF operations reboot. Yeah, I think it's correct. We'll see. So, okay. Did this device got rebooted while I was talking? No, it's still there. Well, we can do it here on CC-SRDEV. So let's change this a little bit. So IOS-XE device. This refers to our CC-SRDEV. We will not use operation reload. We also have to set headers. So besides setting basic authentication, you actually have to set 2 additional headers. One is called accept and another one is content type, and there must be this. There must be application yank data, either JSON here or XML if you're using XML. Actually, you know what? It's to get here. So I do get here, and I get this data as XML. So here I can change to XML, and I get the same data using XML. So I usually tend to use JSON. So JSON. Okay, so here we are going to do post. We need to do post on the copy operation. And we need to provide a body for this. We will say raw JSON, no, raw text. And I have to be very careful with how I do data formatting here. So let's see. So it says operation, and then just you put input. Okay. I think this will work. So input, and we have to provide 2 parameters. One of them is called _source and _dest, I think. I don't remember. We'll see in a moment. So yeah, we need that. Let's see. So this says copy should provide input, where you have leave source and leave destination. Okay, so I have to do that, and both of those parameters are mandatory. So destination, and let's try doing this. So this will be running config, and this will be boot flash, let's say running config stream txt. Okay, let's go to the device and make sure that we don't have it die. Sorry, it should be dir boot flash. Let's grab on the running config. So I have running back, but it's not the same file, so I would like to have running config stream.txt. So if I did everything correctly, this is supposed to work. We'll see. Unsupported media. Yeah, about that. Why it's not working though? Text. Well, it complains that this data is incorrect. Oh, okay. Okay. Go ahead, try again. Missing value. Interesting. So Cisco-IOS-XE copy source. Missing value. Malformed message application. So okay, so somehow this is not correct. So reboot time is leave let's see again another example. So, well, this looks fine to me. The only thing is that I didn't prefix it with a module. This may be an issue. So let's do two things. So one of them will be, I think it should be Cisco-IOS-RPC. Okay. This is one missing value. Error pass copy. I'm actually curious. It says it should be input already here. Maybe I should do it like this. Okay, let's see. Internal error. Okay, this is not helpful. Delay message language. I don't know, this looks fine to me. So you see, this kind of things actually make it complex. You know, you really have to understand how to construct this data properly in order to be able to use both NETCONF or RESTCONF. From my perspective, this is the biggest problem. This, right? You see, like, I have to refer to RFC, I have to try different combinations until this actually works. I don't like this. See? Unexpected. What? Oh. Yeah. Missing value. Interesting. Okay, this part didn't work. I'm not sure how I should construct it. It seems like I constructed this using the RFC example, so this didn't work. Besides doing operation copy, I don't think there are any other operations that I would like to see. I mean, from this list of operations, I think we will actually jump to the data. So from this list, only reload and copy looks interesting to me right now. Well, maybe delete. You know what? Let's also try deleting. So it should be delete. Actually, we'll try to use the whole thing. Use a prefix. And then we have to check our model. So this will be RPC delete. You have to provide input underscore file name. And it can be pattern which starts with like put flash. Okay. So I think we have this file called running config back. It should help us. So this was file name, and it was boot flash running config back. So let's try doing this, and let's also see if actually I should have done post. Yeah, so post, yeah, All operations should use post. Okay, let's go ahead and try this. So either in this form or we'll delete input part. Cisco-IOS-XE RPC delete file name. Yeah, I know this doesn't work. Pretty sure this is correct syntax, but no luck so far. Okay, yeah, as I told you, let's keep operations. We already tried reload operation, it worked just fine. Let's go to the data. Okay, so if I go back to RFC here and to index, another API resource, probably the most useful one, is called RESTCONF/data. Let's actually go ahead and check this. So those are examples of URIs that you can construct. Operations, Yank library version. Data store resource. You know what? I think we will. Yeah, you know, we don't need pointlessly scroll. I will actually go ahead and use some of my examples. So, well, save config operation is just another operation. We'll send just Cisco-IA save config. List of schemas not interesting. Cisco-IOS-XE-interfaces young model. I think this one is interesting. Oh no, actually, I'm sorry. This is not it. No. Get statistics of all interfaces. Yeah, this part should be interesting. So this get statistics of all interfaces using what is called IETF model, IETF interfaces. And the way I know is because every single example on the internet refers to IETF interfaces model. Okay, so this should be, I have to check IETF interfaces. Nope. IETF interfaces.yank. Okay, so this is IETF interfaces. It's not actually extremely big, so IETF interfaces model contains two containers. One of them is called interfaces, this is config. Another one is called interfaces state. So interfaces state. Then you have a list of interfaces with key name. And this actually piece is quite important. We will see in a moment. So key is very important piece. And then every interface besides key, well, has a leaf name, which is a string, type, which is type identity ref, admin status, oper status, and oper status. Okay, let's go ahead and do this. So RESTCONF data interfaces interface. So this should give us a list of interfaces for the IETF model. Okay, here we go. So we see that the top key will be the IETF interface, IETF interfaces interface. So this is a prefix. This is a module name. So we'll go back to the top. So this is this, and we are going to the container interfaces state, which is here, and it should contain a list. Well, actually it is already, we are referring to this interface object, which is this, and this should be a list, which we see here, list, and it ends here. And then you have every interface with its parameters. So gigabit Ethernet 1, it's Ethernet interface, it's up, last changed, if index, speed, and then there is also statistics. Okay, so, and again, this IETF interfaces model. So okay, besides statistics there is some QoS piece, I guess, and so on and so forth. So then there are other interfaces. Okay, let me also see if there are some comments in the chat, because I haven't looked on the chat at all. To be honest, IOS-XE-SD1 software is not just a version of IOS-XE, it's a Viptel software that now able to run on Cisco hardware. Correct. So Skiffer is correct here. So yes, the Viptel version of the software that runs on IOS-XE is not the classic IOS-XE that you may be used to. So yeah, it's just different software that is able to be managed by vManage. So I won't see any classic feature there. You like to set up Cisco-IOS-XE-SD1, and the only thing you can do is SD1 features. No VoIP collaboration and all other features that you may see on basic IOS-XE software. Correct. So the Viptela image, though, well, there is very active development for it to make sure that all popular features that are present on IOS-XE are available in the Viptela version of software. Hello, sir. How are you doing? Okay, so we saw the list of interfaces using IETF interfaces model. Again, you will see it in every single tutorial out there. We will go much deeper than this, because I honestly think that IETF models exist only to be able to do tutorials on it. That's all. That's the only reason we have IETF models, IETF Yang models. You can't actually, from my perspective, you can't really solve business problems with IETF interfaces or any other IETF model. You need so many more features that are available there. Okay, now we have a list, but actually I would like to have only one interface, let's say gigabit 1, or let's say gigabit 2, okay? So how do I do this? Well, this is a piece where we need to refer to the key. So remember, here I showed you that there is a key. So key is a selector, how you can select one single interface using both NETCONF RPC as well as a RESTCONF URI. So you basically put a slash and you say name is equal to gigabit Ethernet 2. I think I did right, and I did not do it right. Like this. What? I was pretty sure I got that correct. So interface name. Have to select key name. Oh yeah, I remember now. So yeah, if there is a key, you should do like this. You have to say interface is equal to gigabit Ethernet. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, nice. So here is a selector for one particular interface. If it's a key, you put something like this, and then you select only this particular interface. Okay, you can actually go ahead and do something even more interesting if you want to. I don't think it's very useful, but you can. You can put question mark and you say fields, and you select the fields that you want. Let's say you only want to have admin status. I honestly think this is useless since you can do this via code. So admin status and name. I think it's semicolon. Is it semicolon? Yes, it's semicolon. So you can also put a question mark and put selector fields and specify the particular leaves that you would like to select. And for the, let me see. So for statistics, I will select everything. But there was also a way to go even further, but I don't remember how. So for that I will need to specify, I'll need to find this in RFC. Okay, so fields query parameter, semicolon is used, slash is used in pass to retrieve a child or the node. We'll see. I'm not sure this is correct. No, it's not correct. Oh, right here. For example, assume that the target resource is album list to retrieve only label and catalog number of the admin container. Use. Let's try this. So this will be statistics, and you'll say input octets and output contents. Yeah, I did this correctly actually. Nice. So you specify parentheses. Can you actually do something like this? No, you can't do something like this. Whatever. I honestly think this particular thing is useless, well, or almost useless, because you can always query just one. I think like this selector is quite useful, where you select based on key, but the field selector for me it's kind of useless because like, yeah, you will get a little bit more data, but you know, it's so easy to extract it via your programming language that I don't see a reason why you would want to do this very narrow selection. It's like what, maybe what, 100 bytes more? I don't know. Okay, there is also filter query. I think the only queries that I used besides the fields was depths query. Depths. So you can also say, let's say depths 1. So you will not get a nested list of statistics, for example. So you will only get by default you have, I think, like infinite depths or something. So yeah, so this is using the selector, and honestly this is like very basic of RESTCONF. There is not much into it. What else you can do is you can say options on the resource. So you can send options and it will tell you what kind of operations you can do on this object. And I think I did it incorrect. Yeah, I think it may be on the top without selector. No. Doesn't give me anything. Whatever. Okay. So we also can check config of interfaces using IETF model. So it's data interfaces. Let's just send this. Okay, now I don't like what I see. Oh, I need to select get. Okay, so get, and here is config. Well, actually it's a mix of config and statistics. Interesting. So oh yeah, so when I specified interfaces without prefix, it selected something else. It selected Cisco-IOS-XE-interfaces-oper interfaces. So this is interesting because there are basically two modules. Where is this containing interfaces? So I wanted to select this one, but it selected another one which has also container interfaces. So to be able to specify it correctly, I have to prefix it. Okay, and here is IETF interfaces, where you have a key called interface, which is a list of all interfaces and their config as part of IETF interfaces. So it doesn't define a lot. So there is description, there is name, description, type, if it's enabled or shut down, and IPv4 address. And I don't think there is no VRF even on the interface. So for me it's like super useless. But just to prove the point, let's go ahead and let's say disable the loopback one. Okay, so we have this device. Show IP interface brief. I have this loopback 1. Well, loopback 0 by the way. Let's have loopback 0. 2123 hello. It's type software loopback. It's enabled true. And it has IPv4 and IPv6 address. So, and it's enabled true. So you like to shut it down. Okay. So, well, first of all, let's select specifically the interface called loopback 1, loopback 0. Okay, so to filter this piece. Okay, cool. So, okay, so I want to modify interface loopback 0. So let's copy this part. You will apply operation patch. So if you would like to make some modification, you apply operation patch, and I leave this the same thing. I have to, I think I don't remember. Let's first try changing description. This may be a little bit easier. So I need to specify body, raw, text, headers. Okay, I think I need to get rid of one indentation and just specify an object. So, and I don't need anything here. I will just delete all of this and say modified using RESTCONF plus IETF model. Okay, hopefully I did it correctly, but you never know. Missing element. Interfaces, interface. Maybe I actually need that level, nested level. So let's see if this will work. I don't think this is correct. Actually, this was correct. So I have interface and then I see here 204 no content. So if I go back to my device now and I say show interface description, I see loopback 0 is modified using RESTCONF plus IETF model. Perfect. So I would like also now to disable it. So I think it was enabled and I need to say enable false. Yeah, in JSON it's lowercase. Okay, 204 no content. So now I go back to my device and I see that now it's admin down here, loopback 0. Now there is one piece that is I would like to see. I would like to do get again and see what I see here. So it's enabled false. I am trying to remember what is the default. Okay, default is actually no shot. Okay. Now, so this was IETF interfaces. As I told you, it's not super interesting because it doesn't give you a lot of features. So you can, where you could go next. So one of the thing is Openconfig. We already saw a little bit of Openconfig on the previous NetConf stream. Or you can use native model. I think we will actually can use both. I would like to see Openconfig too. So let's say lsla grep Openconfig. I think it's called Openconfig interfaces. Openconfig interfaces. So let's do call. No, this will be very big. Let me think. Let's do this. Pyank f js3 Openconfig. Yeah. So it should be user local bin Pyank, and then we'll save this to Openconfig interfaces HTML. And then I can open this and I can move it here. So Pyank also generates this JS3, which kinda allows you to see it a little bit easier. So Openconfig interfaces config state enabled here. Okay, we'll go ahead and do the same thing. So okay, let me go ahead and duplicate this, and let's say I would like to query OCIF-interfaces. I don't think this will work in this way, but let's try. URI key not found. Yeah, maybe I have to actually put Openconfig interfaces here. Okay, this seems to work. So Openconfig interfaces interface, and then you have the list of the same thing. Now I will say I would like to have loopback 0, and now I see only loopback 0. So this model is a little bit different. It has config part and it has state part, and also in config you have, it's not like it's very different. So the biggest difference, I guess, is support of sub interfaces in the Openconfig model. So for example, if I query, I think gigabit Ethernet 3 is actually, you'll see it like here. So you have, I have here description with which trunk, you have your state, but then you have your sub interfaces. You have your sub interface 0, which is primary thing, and then you have all the same statistics, and then you have index 100, where you have your index 100, blah blah blah, it's enabled, but I don't see even VLAN here. This kind of, oh, here you have a VLAN here. Perfect. You know what? I can actually go ahead and create a new interface, new sub interface using Openconfig. I think this will be actually pretty cool. So okay, let's think this through. What do we need? Well, we can use post here, and we will do operation on the sub interfaces. Sub interface. I think this is correct, but I may be wrong. So we will copy. We'll copy the 100 piece. Okay. And let's say, well, we will not have state. State is read-only, so this is stupid. So no state. So 200, 200, 200, IPv4. Let's change this IP address to 67 everywhere. We will not have state. We will not have IPv6. We'll have VLAN though. So, okay. This piece seems to be correct. Okay. So let's try this. Let's see how successful we will be. So now it says a URI was not found. I think I have to do this. I have to say sub interfaces. Nope. Like this. A non-element in sub interfaces. Oh, I think it was sub-interface. Object is not writable. Oh, okay. VLAN state is not writable. Okay, fine. This works for me. So, closing bracket, closing bracket. Yeah, this seems to be fine. Yeah, let's go ahead and try this. And we have 201 created. So now let's go to our device and let's see show interface description. And now I see my new sub interface, show run interface gigabit 3 200. It's right here. IPv6 enabled for some reason. Interesting. By default in Openconfig it seems IPv6 enabled. Okay. I also wanted to get rid of this sub interface. I don't see I can get rid of this piece. I remember that on the list it's actually a little bit different. Let me try this as well. Okay, for post on list must be on list element. Yeah, so okay, I remember now. So if you want to do it like this, you have to add an key, which I have to go ahead and check in the model itself. So, and let me see if there are any questions. No, chat is silent today. Chat is very quiet today. So what am I doing here if I have this graphical view? So I need to see sub interfaces, and you see here in this HTML view there is this square brackets index. So this indicates that index is a key. So when you want to do any operation on the list, you have to do this. You have to provide a key. I think this will work. No, it doesn't work. Post to a non-existent list resource. Okay, so it seems like you can do post on lists. If you want to do that, you need to do it on the root element. But I'm pretty sure I can do put now. If I do put, because put is actually a replace. So if I do put now, no, it's not working. Malform message. Then it should start with sub interface. Okay, 201 created. Okay, so now I go again to my device and I say show interface description, and I see that now I have gigabit 300 show run interface gigabit 300, and I see here config here. So yeah, let me tell you this. So there is get, post, put, patch, and delete. Those are operations that are supported by RESTCONF. So with post, you basically add a new element. If I want to post, I need to do the post on the root of this tree, so like on previous element. If you do put or patch, you must specify an exact. You have to specify an exact element. You have to select element from the list. Okay, so in this case, I I am saying that this will be an element 300, and then I can select it right like this. What is the difference between put and patch? So with put, you will actually replace everything that exists there, which exists currently, with the new information. Patch will just apply the new changes that you are having. For example, if I want to change an IP address, I think I may be able to do it like this. So I can specify patch, and I have to say I don't think this will work because it's several levels deep, but let's try. Missing elements. Oh yes, about that. So some interface still should be there. Actually, it worked just fine. So it says 204 no content. So if I go to my device, interesting. If you apply patch, it just adds another IP address. Very interesting. Wow, it's actually very interesting. So if I do put, I think it will not work. So let's say now it will be 70. I don't think it will work because I need to specify sub interface for this guy, and it will just yell at me that it says malform message, missing element. Yeah, so if you do put, you have to create the full object so that you can actually go ahead and replace. So how this will look like? Well, I think this will be correct. So okay. So I have the whole element and I can say put. So this is supposed to be changing this element, but we'll see. So it says 204 no content. So I'm pretty sure that right now you'll delete this secondary. So if I go to it again, no, it's still there. This doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But this IP address though is still here. Secondary is not configured. Okay, so yeah, I'm not 100% sure what is going on here. I'm pretty sure I can do it with native model. This is kind of weird. Okay, let's go ahead and do some changes using the native model. So the native model is excuse me folks, so I think it should be interfaces, Cisco-IOS-XE-interfaces. So this is a model and we'll do the same thing. So we'll say pyank minus sorry, this will be user local bin pyank fjs3 and this, and we'll save this to Cisco-IOS-XE-interfaces HTML. and it's a very big model because a lot of features are implemented there. So I can move this file to another screen, and I can expand all, and then it doesn't work. Oh, okay. It says submodule Cisco-IOS-XE-interfaces belongs to Cisco-IOS-XE native. Yeah, right. So I think what I have to do is provide it like this. I think I can just change it. Cisco-IOS-XE native yank. So you can provide two yank models, and if they are related, you'll see them. Okay, so this is native model plus interfaces model. So I can collapse all, and it's very slow. I mean, the JavaScript that is generated by this tool, this page is like, it's super slow. Alternatively, you can use a whole yank file in text editor, but believe me, it's not very helpful. This is why, from my perspective, current tooling for yank is just not good enough. Every so often I also use Yank Explorer, but uploading new models to Yank Explorer is also quite a challenge, by the way. There is Yank Suite, but you can use only public page, and there are some issues there as well. Okay, so it seems to be collapsed. So you see it like took 30 seconds to collapse everything. So in the native, you can go to interfaces, if you will be able to find it. Which I don't seem like I can find it. Thank you. So there. Etador, thank you very much for following. So interface, okay, here is the interface, and you have interface type, and then you see that it says key is a name. Okay, so yeah, and here is the path on the right which you can use. So let's go ahead and try that. So we'll duplicate, and let's go ahead and try this. So if you look on this path on the right, it says native interface, and sometimes if your module is unique and your container is unique, you can skip the prefix. If something is not unique, then you must specify it. So we already saw the problem with that before. In this case, native is a unique model, so I can skip it, and I can say interface, and this will fetch all the interfaces. Of course I have to do get, not put. So I do get data native interface, and then you see these things. So you see this model is actually a little bit different. You actually have interface type as a key, and then you have a list of interfaces where the name is a part of that interface type. So you have gigabit Ethernet 1, you have 2, you have 3, and then you have 3.100, 3.200, and 3.300. And then you have a loopback, which is a separate entity. For example, if I say loopback, it will show me only loopbacks. Okay, I see here loopback 0 and loopback 1. We'll say we would like to see gigabit Ethernet, and I would like to see gigabit Ethernet 3.300, the one that we configured via Openconfig. And it's saying that it's not correct. What? Oh, gigabit. Okay, right. Okay, so gigabit Ethernet 3.300. So, and you see this model is actually pretty straightforward. You have your obviously you can, anything you can configure will go there. Actually, let's go ahead and do this. So I will go here to gigabit 3.300 and I will say IP not inside. Okay, and I will rerun this. And you see here that there is not inside appeared. So root, name, encapsulation, and so on and so forth. So I will copy this to text file as well, and I already see that we'll probably not have time for YDK, but that's alright. So this will be JSON. Now I would like to modify just VLAN, okay? And I will do this. I will leave the name. It should be the same. So I need to copy this. I need to say patch and provide a body. Since we will be patching this element, we'll have to have like this, and I will need to, well, I don't need the name here. I just want to change the VLAN. Okay, so let's see. I need one level of indentation and then we're fine. Okay, perfect. So I suspect this will work, but I don't recall. So if I do send, it says 204 no content. So now what this was supposed to be doing is only changing the VLAN, which I can see here. You see that everything else is the same. Now I will do something different, and I also do not know if it will work or not. I will change this to 500, but I will say put. So put is operation replace. So allegedly it's supposed to replace everything with just this VLAN number. Let's see. It says 4 bad requests. Okay, makes sense, because if you're replacing the elements, there are some obligatory mandatory parameters that you can skip. How you can see it? If you go to this Cisco-IOS-XE interface, let's say gigabit Ethernet, actually you can see it in this view. But basically this leaf is mandatory, so you can skip it. Oh, you can actually see here, you see there is no question mark. So question mark means optional, no question mark means mandatory. So yeah. Now this should work. I have to say 300, comma, and then send. And now I see 204 no content. However, since this is operation replace, allegedly I should not see this anymore. I should see only the new VLAN, interface name and new VLAN. So let's go ahead and try it, and this is exactly what we see. Okay, so this is super important. Okay, so using put, you can guarantee the configuration state, since I basically deleted everything that was there. Easy. Okay, there is one problem, and I think it's actually a problem with, I don't know, Yang standard or whatever that is, or NETCONF and RESTCONF. You can't replace lists. Okay, so I know that gigabit Ethernet is actually a list of different objects, but you can't replace a list, and this is just killing me. So you can't replace all of the loopbacks. The only way you can do it by replacing the top level element. So if you can replace all interfaces at once, but not just loopbacks, because there is this kind of structure where loopbacks is a list. So what I mean by that, let me get loopbacks. Okay, so data native interface loopback. Oh, method not allowed, so I need to do get. And I have 2 of my loopbacks configured. Again, super straightforward, right? Now, imagine I would like to have a list of only one loopback. Okay, you will not be able to do it. So if you do what you are supposed to do, put, and you put it here, and I would like to get rid of the interface 0, like this. You actually can't do it. Okay, so it will tell you, I think, 4 or 5 method not allowed. 4 or 5 method not allowed. So you can't do it like this. But what you can do is, since loopback contains a list, and let me see, let me put it here. So Cisco-IOS-XE-interfaces yank. I think it's leave list, loopback, list. So interface loopback, it's a list, okay? It has a key and so on and so forth. So since this is a list, you can do put operation on the list without providing an exact object. But you can do replace on not on the list. So this all is part of the container interface. So you can actually replace the whole container interface. So let me show you how to do it. Okay, so I do get on data native interface and I get everything. Okay, so now I get everything. You see that interface has keys, gigabit Ethernet, loopback, and so on, and those are lists. So I can go ahead and replace on this level of the level on the level of interfaces, and this will be fine. So how to do it? I say change this to put. I say body is equal to this, the same thing, and now here I can just go ahead and delete. Let's say I will delete one of the sub interfaces. Let's say sub interface 3200. So I do this. I have 100 and 300. Let me show you that I still have those interfaces. Show interface description. I have 100, 200, and 300. I deleted here 200. Everything else is the same, and I'm just replacing. So let's go ahead and do put data native interface. Okay, I think this should be fine. And it says tool for no content. So what I just did, I replaced the whole tree in Cisco-IOS-XE native interface, which means that I just deleted the sub interface 200. Okay, so we could do this again. It actually says deleted, so I'm not sure if it's, yeah, so sometimes it shows it like this. I'm not sure like what it really means, but basically it means that this is not operational anymore. Let me also maybe delete loopback 1 as well. And if you have been doing any kind of network automation, I think you already start realizing the value of something like this. So if you have your data somewhere like in YAML or database or whatever, you can actually just go ahead and change those files or those values in database. And let's say you just want to get rid of the whole loopback, right? You just deleted it from your database or from your YAML file, whatever that is, and if you apply put operation on interfaces now, you will get rid of that loopback. Okay, there will be no CLI merge, no. Yeah, so you can actually guarantee that if you have your loopbacks in your lists 1 and 2, and previously there were loopbacks 1, 2, and 3, once you apply put replace, if you apply HTTP put using RESTCONF, you will end up with loopbacks only 1 and 2. Okay, I think this is very important. So I do this again, and I should get rid of my loopback now. So I do it now, and I see that there is no loopback. Okay, there is no loopback 1 anymore. Okay, awesome. Okay, so now another piece that I want to do, I would like to enable loopback, just specific loopback. So how do I do this? So from my perspective, this is operation patch, and I have to say I need a loopback, and I need a loopback 0. And this is actually very interesting. If you look on the model, if the interface is not shut down, it will not have a tree called shutdown. If it is shut down, you will see this tree called shutdown, and then it's a list where your value is known. Okay. So what does it mean? So first of all, I have to get rid of several levels of indentation. I don't need this virtual port group anymore. I need my loopback here, which will be a list. Actually, it will not be a list. It's not a list. So this is not a list. Okay. So here I have my loopback 0. I don't need name. I don't need anything here. But I would like to delete this shutdown. This part I don't remember though. I think I need to do something like this. So I need, because I want to delete some resource. I think I don't even need anything here. And then I apply operation delete on this. Let me see. So loopback 0 right now is shut down. So I delete loopback 0 shutdown. Let's see. And you see here it says 204 no content, right? So if I go back and I look on my loopback, now it's up. Okay. Now what I'm curious though is how do I delete multiple objects? Let's say I would like to delete number of fields. This part I don't know actually. RESTCONF must support delete method if the target resource represented is a configuration leaf list of lists, and you must refer to a single yang. Okay, we already did that multiple times. Resources deleted. I'm not sure this is correct. I think if you like to delete something, you have to just delete one resource at a time. So I don't think you can do something like, let me get this first. Okay, so let's say I would like to delete IPv6 address as well. Okay, so I don't think I can do fields is equal to name, no, to description, or let's say IP and IPv6. This doesn't make sense to me, but let me try. So okay, if I do this, I should be able, no, I don't think it's valid, but it actually says 200. Okay, interesting. So show run interface loopback 0. No, I mean, this doesn't make any sense. So you can just, oh, I did get, of course, and somehow it didn't show me the fields correctly. This is weird. Okay, so yeah, I can get data like this, but native interface loopback, I don't, yeah, let me try, but this is stupid. It says 204 no content, but I believe this will delete the whole loopback. Yeah, this just deletes the loopback. Okay, so very important piece. So you can either, if you have, let's say if you like to delete description and that the loopback is shut down, you have to do two operations. Okay, so you have to do, say, description test and let's say shutdown. Okay, and let's also configure IP address 164.0.1. And let's also have IPv6. Okay, so show run interface loopback 0. Okay, so I would like to delete description and I would like to delete shutdown. So I have to do two operations. So I have to do shutdown. I delete this. It says 204 no content on the right. So if I do show run interface loopback 0, it's not shut down anymore. And now I want to do description. So I delete the key called description. And it says what? It says 204 no content, and now there is no description. Okay, so this is an actual, from my perspective, it's kind of like a drawback of RESTCONF, because in NETCONF you can do this in one operation. You can say, oh, I'd like to delete this and this and this and this in any level of depth. So, but yeah. And my camera went out of focus for a second. Okay. But I do believe that using RESTCONF is so much easier to read the data. So you already get a dictionary, well, you get a JSON, which is so easy to convert to dictionary in Python, do whatever you want. Okay. So, okay, so this was interfaces. I think, yeah, I think we did interesting pieces here. We explored the model and so on and so forth. Let me look on the time. We already going for 2 hours 20 minutes. I feel there is something else I would like to show you. So we already, we tried the interfaces using different models, Openconfig, native model, and IETF. Let's also select something else. So one interesting model that was added recently was platform. There are so many models right now, by the way, but one thing that was lacking was for inventory, to understand what modules you have installed and what are their serial numbers. I don't think it's covered as part of IETF. Let me actually see. LSLA grep IETF. So dserv, event notifications, inet types, IP, keychain, NETCONF, monitoring, defaults, RESTCONF, IETF, OSPF, routing, yank library, yank push. Platform metadata, tailf CLI, tailf common monitoring, NETCONF monitoring. I would like to see this model and this model, and I do not know what does it mean deviation in terms of the model, but yeah, I would like to see those. So OpenFlow, no. Platform extended or whatever it is, I'd like to see this. So what do we need? So we need pyank, no, so it will be user local bin pyank fjs3, and then this, and I save this to this. Okay, this warning doesn't look good, so let me open this. So module, yeah, it opens empty, so this was not useful. There was also deviation. Let's actually deviation. No, I don't know. Let's try this. So user local bin pyank fjs3 and HTML. Okay, and now we can open this file. Okay. Config state components. Okay, so Openconfig platform will actually give us the serial numbers, I guess. So how do I get information? So I have to do this, and let's duplicate, and we'll say get, and I need to specify Openconfig platform. Okay, let's go ahead and do it, and it says invalid. Interesting. So it seems like this particular model is not yet supported. Or maybe I just did something incorrect. Yeah, I don't see this implemented. Okay. Openconfig packet match network instance LLDP BGP access lists. I think we can try access lists as well. So let's do pyang f3 user local. Okay, so this model is named Openconfig ACL. So get data Openconfig ACL. Okay, this kind of bothers me. Yeah, about that. About that, maybe I think I did something incorrectly. Okay, this works. Okay, so platform 1 is not supported right now, but Openconfig ACL. And I think it will also work without prefix as well. Let's see. So yeah, it actually works. So Openconfig ACL, and those are all access lists that I have configured. There's access list cap1 filter list. There is this access list, there is net ACL list, there is test access list in Openconfig format. What is this? Oh, this is actually these access lists applied on the interfaces. Pretty cool. I would like to see the serial numbers though. So Cisco-IOS-XE, I think this one. So Cisco-IOS-XE platform, this will be it. So pyang f3 Cisco-IOS-XE platform. Yeah, I forgot to specify pass because the binary that I have for pyang is not some, there is some problem with it. Okay, so well, it's actually interesting. It goes to the it augments IOS-XE native platform. So this will be then native platform. No, this is something else. Yeah, I think it may be here. So Cisco-IOS-XE platform-oper. So this will be and I'm pretty sure on like one of the previous streams I actually were interacting with this components. Oh. Just 2.4, no content. I don't know. Well, it kind of makes some sense because here you see that there is like temperature, serial number, and so on and so forth. And this is a virtual device. There is no temperature. I don't remember the model. Actually thinking that I will try to find it somewhere in my examples. I'm pretty sure I was interacting with this, but so it will be cat projects my forks no near sandbox, and then it should be sandbox too. Nope, not correct. Is it main? Okay, it could be main. py hostname subinterface of inventory filter. Here it is. So it was Cisco-IOS-XE-device-hardware-oper. Okay, so this will be history grep. No, it will be lsla grep hardware. Okay, so this is this model. So pyank f3 local bin. Okay, so it's device hardware data. Okay, let's go ahead and apply this. Device hardware data, and here I see device hardware. I see that it's CSR1000V, its serial number, its information, route processor, ESP. I also see even like details about my host where I run this. So you get something like this. Well, number of CPUs, it's 4 CPUs, processor, you have software version here, boot time, current time, last reload reason. One thing that I would like to see here is that if there was a software version in specific format, so that you don't need to parse this string, but you could say, oh okay, this is 16.8.1 or something. Or it's like IOS-XE 16.8.1, so there would be, you know, very specific naming for this. But yeah, I mean, here you can get the serial numbers and your modules. In my case, it's a virtual CSR, so it doesn't have any embedded modules. But if it's like physical device, like Catalyst 9K, for example, you'll most likely see here all the information from like show module or something, or show inventory. Yeah, pretty good. Let me see if there are any questions now. Chat is very quiet today. Okay, so this was the device hardware-oper yank. So you see everything here is read-only, so RO, so you can only apply get operation on this. How we are doing on time? We are recording for 3 hours 30 minutes. Okay. So I'm thinking if there should be another interesting example. So we tried with interfaces. I think we can try with BGP. Now let's actually go ahead and try configuring BGP using, let's say, native model. And to make things interesting, I have here CSR3, which came up after reboot. I think it's still, oh, it's running correct software version. Oh, perfect. So there is show interface show run section router. Yeah, so let's do this. I will let's do this. I will configure here BGP manually. Let's say router BGP 300, neighbor is 10.48.18.30, remote AS 500. And I will just want to establish BGP session. This is the only thing I want to do. And what is the IP address of this guy? I think it's 26. Sharp interface, yeah, it's 26. So this will be a little bit more difficult though, because, well, I can show it to you. So if I do user local bin yank and I say fjs3 on Cisco-IOS-XE-BGP, I need BGP common oper BGP yank. Okay, and I will save this to, let's say, BGP HTML. Okay, and then I will need to open this once it finishes. So now I can open this. Thank you very much for following. Unfortunately, I didn't get pop-up for the nickname, but I really appreciate it. Okay, I have to show this to you. Hold on. So this is a file. You can't see it yet. So this is a file that I got from JS3. So you see it has nothing. Why it has nothing? Well, the main reason why that this model, if I say code this, you will see that this model augments an existing model. Actually it doesn't. I think it should be, yeah, it augments IOS-XE. It augments IOS native IOS router. So you will not be able to see it like this in JS3. In order to see it like this, you have to specify two yank models. In this case, we are extending Cisco-IOS-XE native yank. So only in this case, once we provided these two, you will be able to see it. So let's give it a moment. Okay, and here I can reload the page. Now I see my native model, and here I would like to click on collapse all, but it will take forever. So I need to find a router key. And it should be, actually I will do it via path. So I know that the path will be IOS-XE, well, IOS native, IOS router. Yeah, this page is super slow. Okay, so it's still okay. So IOS-XE router, and then you have your BGP, and then you have all details about this model. So now, just looking on this, we will try to construct the config for BGP neighbor and try to establish neighbor with this guy with CSR3. Now, there is one piece that I really have to check is, due to my tests, I may have access lists, which I do. So I will go ahead and delete this access list from the interface manually to save us some time. I'm thinking it would be actually much better if I would delete this using RESTCONF, right? It would be so much better. Yeah, let's actually delete do this differently. So this will be I need gigabit 1, and then I just have to select this. Oh no, it's incorrect. It should be no native interface. Okay, data native interface, Ethernet 1. Okay, so yeah, I have here my interface 1. I would like to delete IP access group from here. So how do I do this? Well, easy. So I have to say gigabit Ethernet 1 and then IP access group, and I will just delete the whole thing. And I also need to delete NOT statement, and I will need to delete IP NOT as well. So this one, send 204 no content, and NOT as well, send 204 no content. So then I go to my device, show run interface gigabit 1, and I also will delete this QS policy as well. So let's also delete this QS policy. So get, let's see, service policy. Okay, so I have to delete service policy and just delete, and boom, 204 no content. We go to the device, there is no QS policy. Now I have to also check that here on gigabit 1 everything is alright, and it's not alright. What about gigabit 2? Okay, gigabit 2 is actually better. So here is nothing. What about here? Here's nothing. Okay, then we will do this on gigabit 2. Okay, so yeah, so here then I need to change my router BGP config. So router BGP no neighbor, and then neighbor 192.168.0.13. Yeah, it's 13. Remote IS 500. Perfect. So I have my show run section BGP, and I have show IP BGP summary. It should say never and stay disabled. Okay, so BGP is not up. And then on CSRDef, I would like to build BGP payload from scratch. So let's go ahead and try doing that. We will need to do, well, we can actually do post. This will be applied on the router, and here will be oh, not here, so it will be in the body. So let's go ahead and check our tree. So here, router. Oh no, it takes forever. Okay, and then it's BGP, and BGP is actually a list. Why it's a list? Doesn't make sense. You can have only one BGP process on the device. Okay, so then I will, well, this is correct approach. And one additional thing I would like to say, I would like to check that I don't have BGP configured, which I don't. So I will, it's really slow, this page. I'm actually thinking, you know what? I will just open it as a text file, and I will apply my yank node here. So list BGP where the key will be ID, and I need to say address family, IPv4. Can there some, yeah, I really like to see this, gosh, how slow this is. Actually, there is one more trick that you may find useful. So if you do user local bin f help, there are a number of formats. So I showed you JS3, which is it's useful but super slow. There is the most useful one is 3, but there is also very cool XML one, and I actually really like that. I think it's so easy to navigate it, and I think it's yin, if I remember correctly. Let me see. So Payang format in okay, so here are all the possible ways. So capability depend, DSL, hypertree, JSON is not really useful. It's very big. It's really hard to read big JSON, which is very nice. So we try this. HTML, JavaScript, tree navigator, JTOX. Oh, I think it's either JTOX or in. Let me try both. So so F JTOX, and this will be Cisco-IOS-XE-BGP. I think. It actually looks like JSON. JTOX. No, I don't understand this. Let's try yin. Yeah, I really like actually this. So BGP XML, and it takes a while. And I now can do code and open this as XML. Yeah, I think this view is actually pretty cool, especially when you construct NETCONF for RPC. So I have to find a list BGP. No, name is equal BGP. Okay, so this is key value ID, and then there is address family on this level. Container timers, scope global. This JavaScript just I'm actually thinking about cheating a little bit and doing get on my another device and then I think at least this will create the process. Yeah, about that. This unknown element iOS native router BGP. Unknown element. Why it's an unknown element? This doesn't make a lot of sense to me. No. I will create this from the I will cheat a little bit. I will do get RESTCONF native router, and here I have to specify different IP, 1048.18.26. So we do get, and yeah. Okay, so I actually, yeah, because it refers to different model, I actually had to specify the prefix. Very interesting. And then I can just say neighbor and ID and remote IS. Okay, so Cisco IOS-XE-BGP. I think this is supposed to work. 2.1 created. Okay, so show run section router. Now I have router BGP. Now I need to say neighbor, and then it was a list, and the first element was ID, which will be 192.168.03. It should be 3. Yeah, it's 3, and then remote IS is equal to 300. Okay, and then I close this. Cashless Cactus, thank you very much for following. Sorry, for subscription. Very much appreciated. Thank you for supporting this channel. Okay, so this feels like a proper structure. It's not formatted a little bit, but let's try. Okay, it says object already exists. Okay, so this is actually a very interesting piece. So previously we were doing post here, and it was fine because we didn't have BGP object, and we were doing post on the list, well, on the object which contains a list. So now we are trying to create this object again. It says, well, no, we already have this object in the list, you can't do that. So if I would like to change this right now, I need to be a little bit more specific. I have to say BGP is equal to 500, and this should be put operation. And now it says 204 no content. So now when I specify this process, I went ahead and, well, I replaced the current BGP config with this new config. So what this should result in the working BGP session which we have. So this is CSR3, which is another end, and I see here that now our neighbor is up and running. So if I go do show run section router, I also see the neighbor right here. Okay, so now our BGP is up. So very interesting piece where I already did post and I couldn't do it again. Also something to keep in mind, you know. So I think we're already going for almost 3 hours. Yeah, it's like 2 hours 55 minutes. I think it's a very good point to wrap up. So first of all, we didn't do any, and guys, let me know if you have any questions before I finish the stream for today. Maybe you would like to know something about RESTCONF or some other topics. Well, first of all, we didn't have a chance to take a look on YDK, which is fine. I think we spent a lot of time on RESTCONF, and I really tried, I really did my best here in showing you different models and different ways you can explore the models and how you can construct payload, how you can delete, how you can replace, and so on. So I think it was actually a pretty comprehensive RESTCONF tutorial. So let's summarize different pieces of the stream. So well, first I explain what is YANG, what is NETCONF, what is RESTCONF, and how they differ. Okay. In RESTCONF, the very important piece is URI. So one HTTP operation is one URI and one object. So this is very important, where unlike in NETCONF, you can actually construct one big payload to interact with every single piece of your configuration that you need in atomic fashion. So NetConf server will tell you, oh, okay, this config is fully fine, or no, there is some error. I will not do anything with this. In RESTCONF, you can't do it because you can do only operations on specific objects, where your URI has very big significance. So RESTCONF supports get for getting data, it supports post to creating some new data, put for replacing the data, patch for modifying the data, specific parameters of the model, and delete for deleting some endpoint. We explored all of these operations actually today. There are also resources called data, which contains all of the operation data and all of the config data, as well as separate endpoint called operations, where you can apply device global operations like reload, license request, copy file, and so on and so forth. Another very important piece is that you can do post and put directly on the list without specifying identifiers. So if you want to replace some object which is part of the list, you must provide an ID key. In this case, for example, you see I have BGP equal to 500 is put. So in this way I was able to replace that part of config. So yeah, you can't replace the whole list, unfortunately, and this is my biggest reason I have, well, my biggest problem with all YANG in general. I do not know why it was done this way, so I can't replace the whole list. With post, for example, you can't do post to a list if the object that you are trying to create already exists. So in this case, I was creating the post, I was creating BGP process again with some new config, and because it was already there, the post was failing. Now, in what models we explored today? We explored a couple of models. We explored IETF interfaces model, very popular model for tutorials. We explored Openconfig interfaces model. We explored native interfaces model. We also explored. We also was trying to do change description, change VLAN number, change IP address. We're doing that part. We were creating new loopbacks. We are creating new sub-interfaces as well. We also explored a model called device-hardware-operational model. This model shows you a list of your modules installed, as well as their serial numbers. We also saw Openconfig access list model to see access list config and operational data. And as the last piece, we were configuring BGP using native BGP model. So also I showed showed how you can use different modes of PyYank tool to get different representation of PyYank. So the most popular one is tree, where you get the whole output on the tree. Actually, it's very hard to search the tree. I will tell you that. So and sometimes it's very big for big models, so it's not always a good idea to use tree. The alternatives that I was showing to you, one of them is called format called JS3, which gives you this web page where you can expand and collapse. Unfortunately, this page is so slow, it's sometimes really hard to use it. And also another thing that I found useful is called yin format, which converts the Yank model into XML, and I do feel sometimes it's super useful, especially if you want to create NETCONF RPC. So, but in general, I don't like any of those. I do feel like Yank tooling is still immature, and I do hope there will be one good tool that everyone can use and it will be fast and so on and so forth. None of the tools that I have tried, and I have tried plenty, I have tried Yank Explorer, PyYank, Yank Suite, all of them from my perspective have big room for improvement. So yeah, this was it for today. So one last call of action that I already mentioned at the very beginning. Please, if you are interacting with IOS-XE, and if you also look into network automation, please go to this repo github.com dmfigo Cisco-IOS-XE, go through the readme and let me know what you think. So very briefly, this is ideas that I have in mind to create a Python library to interact with Cisco-IOS-XE using only NETCONF or RESTCONF. So no CLI, no whatsoever. So you can actually you can have guarantees of network configuration state when you do any changes. So what I'm looking for before I start coding that, let's try to build the best API possible together. What would be the best user experience of a user who would use that API? So I'm looking for that feedback. I am looking for the main feature request, like what is the things that you would like to see the first. Like I would like to see, I don't know, L3 interface interaction, or I would like to see some basic VLAN manipulation, stuff like this. Okay, so because every single feature that you have, guys, will need to be manually hand coded. I will need to create manual XML or something like this, manual XML snippets, in order to be able to support that. So it's obviously is going to be very slow process, and since I do not know, for now it will be only me developing that, I will definitely need to prioritize what are the most useful features that you can get from these libraries and what are the least useful features. So if you're doing anything there with IOS-XE and you're looking for automation, please go to the repo, open an issue, or just reach out to me in somewhere like Slack, and let's talk about it. Let's try to create the best design of the library possible, and then after we have defined that, we'll go ahead and start writing code, or well, I will start writing code to implement that functionality. Okay, I don't see any questions in the chat, so I would like to thank you. Thanks everyone who joined the stream, even for a short period of time or for the whole stream. I appreciate everyone who is coming here, leaving some comments, or just watching the stream and trying to learn something new. Also a big thank you to supporters, to people who follow and who subscribe. I really appreciate your support, guys. So with that, thank you very much, and I will see you on the next stream. Bye bye everyone.